Big changes announced at Twitter this week with the news that the CEO and co-founder, Jack Dorsey, is going to step down. The initial reaction, you can see it here in the stock, jumped drastically higher. This is a 5-minute chart we're looking at. But then sold off and pushed back towards the lowest for the year. So is this change in the CEO going to mark a change in the fortunes of the Twitter stock price? I thought we should do an update on Twitter. Given the news this week about Jack Dorsey, it's not been the best of years for the stock price. Here we are trading just above $45. The lows for the year were in from January around 44. So a disappointing year so far. So as usual in this video, I'll talk a bit about the recent news, who the new CEO is, the levels to watch, then we'll come back onto the charts and see if there's an opportunity down here. Hello, I'm David Jones from Capital.com, and I thought we'd do an update on Twitter. We've had this news this week that the chief exec, Jack Dorsey, is stepping down. So I thought, well, let's revisit the stock price, take a look at some of the recent news, what might change with him going, because the stock has had a pretty poor year overall, but more about that when we get into it. So as usual, I'll talk about the recent news, we'll look at the levels to watch, then we'll jump back onto the platform and take a look at the technicals and the charts in a bit more detail. If you're watching this and you haven't subscribed, if you could click on subscribe, it does help support the channel and it means we can continue to push out lots of different content throughout the week at the various stocks that we look at. Right, let's get into it and take a look at some of the details about Twitter in a bit more depth. So a quick recap of what it is. Founded back in 2006. It's a social networking site referred to, I think, in the early days as a micro-blogging site, limited number of characters you could put in your tweets. And at the moment, it has just above 200 million users around the world. So I think it's always an interesting site for following, breaking news, political news, that sort of thing. And I think it's quite a good feed for financial markets just to have a feel for what's going on. But the big news this week was around Jack Dorsey. So Jack Dorsey is the CEO, chief exec of Twitter, also one of its co-founders. And he announced that he is going to step down from that role. This is actually the second time that Jack Dorsey has stepped down. He came back into this in 2015, but that's it. He's off again. Now, he's also the CEO of the payment service Square, a business that he founded after Twitter and has done incredibly well. But being CEO of both companies did not sit well with a lot of investors. And they said, well, look, we want a chief exec who actually is 100% focused on one business. So I think when the news initially broke that Jack Dorsey was stepping down, we did see Twitter stock rise on the news. So a positive view from investors. So the new CEO is a gentleman called Parag Agrawal. He's seen as a safe pair of hands by investors. The question is, how much change and how much can he reinvigorate the Twitter stock price and the Twitter business? After the initial run higher on Jack Dorsey's resignation, we did see Twitter stock weak again. The latest earnings we had in October from Twitter, pretty much in line with expectations, slightly ahead of expectations. User growth was up 13% over the last 12 months. But I think that the focus now is going to be what changes, if any, the new CEO puts in place. Like I said at the beginning, it hasn't been a good year for the stock price of Twitter. For the year so far, considering how strong other markets have been, it's really underperformed. So Twitter stock, at the time of recording, is trading around 15% down for the year so far. And it's actually trading pretty much near its lows from the year from back in January. So does this make it an opportunity down here? Let's talk about some of the levels to watch. Then we'll jump onto the charts and take a look at things in more detail. So in terms of barriers on the upside, I think $50 a psychological level, $55.40, the high we saw in November. On the downside, I think the big level to watch is the 2021 low so far. That comes in at $44.40, so not a million miles from where the stock is trading. We did see that level hold right at the beginning of the year. Is it going to be the case again this time round? Let's take a look, jump on the platform and take a look at the charts. So let's kick things off with our 20-day moving average. So moving averages, when the price moves above the moving average, it's considered a buy signal. When the price moves below, it's considered a sell signal. and the price has been below the moving average on Twitter since the end of October. So we're about just over a month into this, the latest sell signal from the 20-day moving average. That came in around $62. So it's done well. The price is, $17 lower, almost 30% lower over the last month. So it has seen a sizable fall in its stock price. If we take a look at the RSI down here, again, not surprising considering the price has been so weak. This is the lowest the RSI has been since the beginning of the year. So we've got to go back to January of this year when we saw those lows for the year to see the price of Twitter or the RSI of Twitter this low. So very oversold on the RSI, but just because it's oversold doesn't mean we're going to see the price suddenly turn around. Again, this downtrend in Twitter has been really strong. But let's take a look at the price action. If we take the longer term view of Twitter back, I've got data going back here to 2014. Pretty volatile over the years, but from March of last year, of course, when we saw stock markets really sell off sharply because of the coronavirus pandemic start, we've seen this good trend, or we had seen this good trend. So let's zoom in on that period. So that trend had done a pretty good job up until October of this year, when we saw the price go crashing below $60. And I think it is interesting now. We have broken, some important support on the way down. It's broken below $60, the trend line support. It's also traded below the May low, so the last major low for Twitter, down around $48.50. And I think the area to watch now is the lows for the year. So the lows set in January, they come in around $44.40. It's only $1 really below where we are now. So I think this is an interesting zone. So again, if we look at these early November lows, down around $39. So let's say 39 to sort of 44 is the zone to watch for Twitter. For now, that trend is still down. So I think from a pure technical analysis point of view, any technical analyst will still be sitting on their hands from where it comes to looking for potential buy opportunities. Then we've got to see, does 39 to 44 hold the stock price up? Do we see it start to build a base down here on this news of the new chief exec? But for now, it's still pretty weak. I think the risk is any rallies are still going to hit selling. So I think it's one to come back to in the months ahead to see if it has formed a base down here. But for now, based on the chart, based on the trend, I don't think there's any real urgency to expect a sudden turnaround in Twitter's fortunes. That's it for this update in Twitter. Big news, Jack Dorsey stepping down. Let's see if we can see things perhaps turn around down here, or will investors take the view that actually the new CEO is not a radically enough different choice? We'll see. We'll come back to it in the months ahead. But for now, from me, David Jones and Capital.com, we'll leave things there. Good luck with your investing. For more trading videos just like this, please subscribe to our channel.